So, on behalf of the Somerville Business Group, we acknowledge the Bunurong people who have been custodians of this land for many thousands of years and pay respect to their elders past and present. We acknowledge that the land on which we meet is the place of age-old ceremonies, celebrations, initiation and renewal, and that the Bunurong people's living culture continues to have a unique role in the life of this region. We would like to welcome everyone here tonight on behalf of the Somerville Business Group Incorporated. My name is David Livingston and I'm the chairperson of the group. I'd like to thank Alan Roberts on my left here for all the hard work he's done in organising tonight, to Mark Hale, our crowd controller, and question line keeper in charge, and Jenna Nelson, who is our timekeeper over there. Big thank you to Bronwyn Welsh and Jenna for all their work on social media and putting signs up around Somerville, Tyne and Baxter. Special welcome to all the candidates that are here tonight. And this is the order off the VEC website: Stefan Borzecki, Michael Stevens, Rob Clarke, Ben Lewis, Susie Beveridge and Kate Roper. Just quickly, the Somerville Business Group was established in July 2021, and we are established to represent the views of the Somerville business community and provide a collective voice of ideas, activities and issues that will enhance our town centre, to develop positive relationships between businesses, community and council, to liaise with local councillors, liaise with state and federal member of parliament, liaise with local police, liaise with the NBN providers and other telcos, and to liaise with others. And also to promote Somerville as a great place to shop, work, invest and play for all relevant stakeholders. We've had some great wins so far. We've been able to get the NBN Business Fibre Zone extended to all of Somerville. It was previously only half of Somerville, and that half was just the residential area. We've restarted discussions for either Somerville Roundabout, which has been our #1 project from our very first meeting. We talk about it as that roundabout, that frigging roundabout, and a lot of other things, depending on how many times a day you've got to go through it. We've met with local councillor and officers on a number of occasions by Zoom and at meetings. We've organised the Santa Comes to Somerville in 2021 and 2022, and the Best Window competition, Christmas window competition in 2022. We also did previously, back in November, the Hastings electorate meeting and tonight's meeting. We've represented and advocated for Somerville where possible. One initiative that we are going to do going forward, we're going to look at holding a lunch and learn workshop at the Somerville Community House and do that every 3 months, commencing in April 2023. These will be designed for all businesses to help with all sorts of things, including cash flow, NBN, occupational health and safety, organising your business, etc. So if anybody wants to come along, it's a free event and it'll just be for about an hour and a half on a Thursday once every 3 months. To the candidates, I haven't actually flagged this to them. Alan said he was going to tell them, he told them what he was going to ask them, but I thought I'd just hold back. What I've done for a number of years is I've looked at the Peninsula Wide magazine. Most of you would be know that the council puts this out all the time. In the summer edition under Watson Ward, there's an in the works section, and there was only one project, and that was the 7-year in making of the bike path between Baxter and Somerville. Yet if you look under other wards in the making, Briars has 9.2 million being spent, Cerberus has road upgrades, footpaths, Nepean has more road upgrades, boat ramp upgrades and footpaths. Red Hill have shelters, reserves. being spent, 2.6 million being spent there. Seawinds have a youth hub worth $13 million. I think personally we have been neglected all the time, and over the last probably 3 or 4 years we struggle to get much done in town. So I'm asking each candidate tonight if they can tell us if they have a third agenda, aka the Performing Arts Fund. I also ask if you have read the Somerville Township Structure Plan, which people attended, and they spend a lot of time doing this. And the council probably spent $50,000 plus staff wages and things like that to get this written up. And that's dated the 20th of June 2019, and it has 28 implementation points, which I believe only 5 or so have been implemented. The last councillor told us there was no money, and that the council staff change so frequently that projects get lost. I believe that there is money, it's just the priority to spend it that we complain about. And I'll leave that up to you guys. You can answer that as time goes by tonight, but that's my beef. What I want is the townships of Somerville, Baxter and Tyre, they all need your help and not self-interest. We need council to promote Somerville as a great place to shop, work, invest and play for all relevant stakeholders. So, sorry for taking up so much time, but thank you very much for that.
Thank you, David. I'll speak without a microphone now, so my voice is big enough. Thank you for the introductions, David. Let me also introduce Andrew. Andrew is taking a video of tonight's happenings, and that will be posted on the Somerville Business Group YouTube page, a YouTube function, and we'll post the details of that perhaps in Somerville and surrounds on the Facebook pages, so keep an eye out for that. So that's one. Can I also thank Kim Fitcher and Dick Cox for their help in getting tonight set up. Without them we wouldn't be here. And Kim runs Somerville Community House, Dick is the chair of Community House, and I promised Kim that I would make a plug for the Autumn Flower and Garden Show, Saturday. This Saturday, between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock.
Yeah, love to see you all.
All right, love to see you all with your entries, presumably.
Wow, just come along.
Come along, there you go. All right. So, so that's here in this building on Saturday, 1 till 4. So please come along. Right, let me add my welcome to everybody for tonight. I'm glad that you've chosen to be here and not at the Ed Sheeran concert. I think it's also the opening of the NRL season, although that game's up in Sydney. And I think, does the AFL open tonight as well? Practice matches still, okay, well, all right, no great loss there. But anyway, so that's it. We're going to get, so one more thing. Please, we've put some ground rules up. So the names of the candidates are up there. The candidates have their names in front of them as well. There are some ground rules. Please do keep to these ground rules. It keeps the evening moving, all right? We're going to ask people, when you're asking questions, we're going to get you to line up here and Mark will marshal that. Please keep your questions tight, all right? Don't ramble on. Please jot down your notes ahead of time and come up and then ask your questions succinctly. All right, questions no longer than 1 minute and one question at a time, please. Okay, so you ask a question and then sit down. If we have time, then we might invite you back up to ask another question. The endeavour is to try and get as best cross-section of Baxter, the whole ward. All right, I'm conscious David spoke extensively about Somerville. I know Tyre's had a township plan as well done. I'm not sure the status of that. And Baxter, I don't know. Does Baxter have a township plan?
Yes, we do.
You do as well. Okay, so it's not just Somerville. Do you in Tyre and do you in Baxter feel the same way as the Somerville people?
Yes.
That we are on the wrong side of the peninsula? All right, so I'm sure that'll come through tonight. But if you feel that somebody's already asked a question that really does cover, and I'll ask the candidates to focus on the Watson ward, not just Somerville, Tyre, Baxter and Somerville, the whole ward. What else? Please give your name and the suburb or township when you step up. Be respectful of everybody, all right? Please just don't go on and on. Keep it nice and tight. And please help me manage the crowd as well. Focus on the future. don't drag up the past, and enjoy it. Let's have some fun, hopefully get a few laughs, and have an evening that we can hear from the candidates. This is the third session that we've run, either between the community house or the chamber or the Somerville Business Group. And we also just did run a similar session for the state election last year. So, compared to that session though, we have all the candidates. All 6 have turned up here, so thank you all 6. I'm going to ask each of them in their turn, so they've drawn lots, and it so happened that they are sat in the order that they will make their initial presentation. I'll ask them to do a 3-minute introduction. One question that was asked and that was tabled earlier was, does every candidate here intend to stand for the full term? Okay, and the full term runs to the next council elections, which are, I believe, in October of 2024. So that's about 18 months. The response from all 6 candidates is, yes, I intend to stand. I have no intention of going off and doing other things. Clearly, that would depend if there is illness or other factors which you can't legislate for. But the response has been, yes, I intend to stand. We've also asked them to disclose any memberships of political parties, other clubs, organisations which might have an impact on the way that they see the world and the way in which they might represent the council. I've asked them to include that in their opening presentation so that you're aware of any situations where there might be a conflict of interest. All right, so let's, they've all agreed that they will do that as part of their opening spiel. All right, are there any questions on the way the evening will run to start with, on the admin for the evening? If not, then I'm going to ask Kate, first cab off the rank, please. Kate, would you like to do your opening 3 minutes, please?
Thank you, and thank you to the Somerville Business Group for organising tonight. Thank you all for attending. I'm not a member of any political party, nor would I ever join a political party. I don't believe that should be brought into council level politics at all. Membership of the club, the only club I'm part of Somerville Westport Neighbourhood Watch, and we meet in Somerville. So that's it, I think. I don't think there's a conflict there. My connection with this area started when we first moved to Peninsula and lived in Tyre. With both family and friends resident here, I'm very familiar with this area. Unfortunately, I've also witnessed the imbalance of funding on the Westport side of the peninsula. As I've been speaking to people during this election period, and from my own observation, it's clear council funding needs to increase over many areas. The basics, what people are talking to me about, potholes, mowing, general tidying up, safety concerns around their local area. And they should speak about a general tiredness around the town, especially heard that from Baxter residents. Sports facilities, yes, we have a great basketball stadium here, a new skate park, but what about the Jones Road footy ground? The clubs there have raised all the funding to complete the buildings there. Council's put in virtually nothing. With over 40 teams using the grounds, facilities are well behind those on the Mornington side of the bay. The netball courts are unsafe, and an old portable building used as a clubhouse is well past the safe use by date. And there's other sporting grounds around Watson Ward that are in the same condition. The population of Watson is increasing rapidly, with many families building and moving here. I've seen wonderful parklands and sports grounds that could all be improved for us to enjoy and better utilise. Even the great event Somerville Family Day has issued with the council. These events need all the support of a strong representative. All over the peninsula, these events are dying. The Hastings Festival, Mornington have lost their Australia Day Festival. Watson needs someone who will fight for their community, and that's me. People have also been speaking to me about bike parks and connectivity and the condition of some of the bike paths around here. We're still waiting on the Somerville Baxter path. Finally at the planning stage, it had delays due to a lack of representation to keep this project on track. And exactly what you were saying about the peninsula, that's why there's no project happening here, because you haven't had a representative. You need someone to push it. The budget is also currently being drafted and public comment invited. We need a councillor that is able to hit the ground running and get projects funded in the budget. My advantage is I already know the processes and how to get things done, and believe me, it does take many months to learn this and to learn who are the blockers and who are the facilitators. My record shows I can get large projects funded and completed, such as the $4 million for Hastings Streetscape, and I think Eramosa Road East Shopping Street needs the same lift.
Finish your sentences.
You don't have time to waste to get someone that doesn't know how things work. So someone will fight for the community, and that's me.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks. Thank you, then. Let's move to Stefan, please.
Right. Thanks, Alan. Welcome all. My name is Stefan Borzecki. At the outset, I'll ask that whoever you vote for as your new councillor, please put a local residence with business experience on the top of your list. Simply, if you haven't been here a long time, you can't be aware of all the local issues and why some things can or cannot be done by the Shire. Business experience is an absolute necessity, as the Shire is a $250 million business employing very highly skilled and paid executives who know far more about how the Shire actually works than most ratepayers and most councils do. It's not a little business around the corner that you give free treats to your favoured customers. There's also a common misconception the Shire by the councillors can solve all the world's federal and state issues. I see no point for councillors or executives to leave the Shire on business, certainly not up to the Roper River or Copenhagen. The two most prominent issues raised to me in our ward are the old classic potholes and traffic, whether it's the council traffic, the trucks from the quarry. We all agree that roads are in a terrible shape. Imagine if I, as a prospective councillor, said, elect me and I'll fix the pothole in front of your house. This statement is simply illegal apart from inappropriate. The only answer an honest councillor can give is I will raise all potholes, road maintenance in general, at a council meeting, etc. The answer will come back for a long chain, it's not in the budget. Thus, councillors have to impact the budget to spend more on that and less somewhere else. No capital works, less capital works. Crime, in all its forms, is a state policing issue. Councillors do nothing directly to reduce crime. However, you believe that keeping youth occupied is one of the best deterrents to crime. The Shire can do certain things, such as the new state skate park, etc. and so on. More importantly, we can release more industrial land for large factories from the excess port land, which will never be used. There's an acute shortage of such land on the peninsula, and I believe we give people a job and good career prospects, all of society will benefit by a reduction in crime. Councillors can only direct policy, even if they are severely constrained by state government policy. Only the executive deal with day-to-day problems. An example of the dysfunctional, illogical council decisions is reflected on the current Esso gas debacle. While the executive, after much deliberation, said it made sense to use the current fed-off waste gas to create electrical energy, the councillors voted against it, as burning for energy appears to be unacceptable. Mind you, without gas, Esso, BlueScope and many other businesses, there'd be no jobs, and of course all the country properties couldn't heat or cook anything.
30 seconds.
Okay. Do you think that's weird? They know the same councils have allowed half a dozen huge diesel generators to produce electricity at the bottom of the peninsula to keep the air conditioners, lights and of course electric cars powered up over in summer in Portsea and Sorrento. So, to me it's the big issue you've got to deal with, not the small stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Moving on to Michael. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone attending tonight. 5, 10, 15 years ago, I couldn't have imagined sitting here running for council. 30 years ago, I was working 6 days of work for a Somerville plumber, saving for my first house. Back then, I saved $250 a week for 12 months to raise a $12,000 deposit.
Sorry, can I stop you, gentlemen? Can we please have phones to silent? Thank you. And anybody else in the audience, please check your phones.
With that deposit, I could buy a modest house for $75,000.
Sorry, Jim, I'm in the meeting.
No wonder we are living in a housing crisis. The same maths applied to a young, hopeful, hard-working person today just doesn't work. Imagine a young plumber being able to save $2,500 a week for 12 months to raise $120,000 deposit on an $800,000 home. That's virtually impossible. If elected, the first thing I will do is to set up a meeting with the young people of Watson to listen to their concerns and to find out what matters to them. I've listened to the community and their top local government concerns, and I've built my campaign around those top priorities. First one is roads, traffic and potholes. I will advocate for increased funding for road maintenance in Watson and for plans to improve the traffic flows through the Somerville roundabout intersection. Second concern is sporting club upgrades. I've heard from football, cricket and women's soccer representatives. I hear the desperate need for club facilitation upgrades. Players are leaving the area to play for better resourced clubs. I understand that sporting clubs are the glue that holds society together. Small business support is number 3. Local government can help small business in many practical ways by conducting small business awards, award marketing, footpath trading. If elected, I will ask to be involved with the Somerville Business Group to understand the issues facing the traders before those issues become huge problems to deal with. I have lived in extremely abundant times. I am a practical problem solver who can bring people together. I listen well. With your support, it's now time for me to give back to community through representing Watson, working on council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Rob, please.
I didn't come here tonight to blow your skirt up with a raft of fanciful promises that just to get me elected. I felt it was much better value for my 3 minutes is to let you know a bit more about me, what I've done and what I can do. My tertiary education was in electronic engineering, and after that I was involved in the design and development of computerised process control systems. I moved on from there into renewable energy, and I travelled the world to research and also to find applicable areas where that resource can be utilised. I've visited most third world countries, and yes, I was sick in all of them. As well as that, I lectured for the Commonwealth Science Secretariat, the State Electricity Commission, and the State Solar Energy Council. After that, I went into consulting engineering as an IT systems administrator for a large consulting firm in Melbourne. They had over 250 engineers and designers, and all of them, of course, were screaming for the latest software revisions. And if you think looking after children is tough, you should try that gig. After that, due to family reasons, I went into planning, and I spent a delightful 10 years down at ESSO. We'll talk about ESSO later if you like, and burning electricity or burning ethane. And on that basis, I was the coordinator for the integration of all the people down there. I was in control of all the major maintenance upgrades, and I was also a strategic planner for the site development. I finished off my career working for the Altona refinery as their principal engineer. I was there controlling over 40 concurrent projects with over a $100 million annual budget. I left there, I quit when I was 70, not because I'd run out of steam, but because I refused to drive 3 hours a day anymore from Somerville to Altona. And yes, I live in Somerville. I'm running for council, not only because I care, but because I believe I have the skills that you need in order that the problems we're facing can be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Kate was very good at the beginning. Can I just test your affiliations? Stefan, do you have any affiliations with any groups that could represent a conflict of interest?
None whatsoever.
Okay, Michael, may I ask the same question of you, please?
No, I don't have any conflicts.
Okay. And Rob?
I'm standing as an independent.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Good. Thank you for that. Susie, thank you.
I'm in the hot seat. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming along tonight. My name's Susie, and I'm a twice elected councillor I was first elected to council in 2007 on the unfortunate and sad death of Councillor Ian Johnson, and this was in Truman's ward. This was also referred to as a forgotten corner of the Shire, and some years before that there had been a study done to identify the lowest socio-economic demographics in Victoria, and there were two of those in our Shire, Hastings and Rosebud West. So there was a fantastic initiative, and we ran the community renewal program in Rosebud West, and I was the councillor then at the time, and I was also the chair of the steering committee. I cannot believe what a transformation it brought to that area, and when the $13 million Seawings Community Centre was touched on, that was part of that program. That was the end result of extensive community consultation, and there was a lovely lady called Jacinta. She said, I don't want the Taj Mahal, I just want a community centre. And this is where it all came from. The entire community was galvanised into steering their future and taking control. It was the most wonderful initiative to be a part of. And I find myself really, I was lost at sea. I was elected the second time unopposed. Nobody else stood against me. That was the hugest endorsement from my community, and my heart just burst with happiness. Unfortunately, in June 2010, because I was carrying a string of fairly serious injuries, I could no longer maintain my councillor role, and I had to retire. I was heartbroken. So this for me, I felt was like it was my life's work. I so enjoyed doing things for the community, listening to the community. I was loyal to my constituents, and I delivered. And I delivered in spades. And I have been out in Western Port. I've suffered a bout of homelessness. And yes, I was told not to mention that because it is polarising. But this is why we need to talk about homelessness, domestic violence and poverty, because it can happen to anybody, even to me. Because I was resourceful and I thought outside the square, I solved my housing crisis. I had a legitimate address for the VEC and to put back on my driver's licence. I fight hard, I've got knowledge of legislation, and I'm finding already I've hit the ground running with two major projects, a regional renewal and also the Western Port Regional Neural Trail to engage our township's youth. I'm already hitting the ground running and getting some good work done. Also got some road work slated to happen at Whitney's and Lemire Road. So, yeah, if there's any other questions or anything you'd like to ask, thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Affiliations that might cause conflict of interest?
I'm transferring from the Sorrento State Emergency Service unit, where I was a member for over a decade, to the Hastings unit. I'm also a member of Western Port Neighbourhood Watch. I'm also a member of the Western Port and Peninsula Protection Council after years of fighting for healthy environments and healthy communities. And I'm also a flying member of the Tired Aero Club. My parents were both pilots, and that's where they met, in the cockpit of a plane.
In a well, okay, let's not dwell on that one. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks very much. Last but not least, Lewis.
I don't think.
So I did check with Ben earlier. Lewis is your preferred. Thank you.
No, that's right. I'm standing as Lewis on Watson Ward, okay? The situation being is that everybody here should just about know me. I've run a number of years. The situation at the same time, I haven't been successful due to whatever the fact is. It happens to be the way it is, right? I'm a retired builder. I used to build in excess of 100 houses a year, and the company I used to have is Louisville Homes. Brother used to have Lewis Homes, okay? So I'm not new to working in relationship to big projects and all that sort of thing. When it comes up to my retirement and so forth, I haven't been sitting around just twiddling my thumbs or going out fishing all the time. I'm on call 24 hours a day for our justice system. Some of it has to do with young children who find themselves in trouble. and the other part is for the Office of the Public Advocate, and having to come back and sit on situations there when the police are interviewing those that have cognitive impairment. Now, in relationship to Watson Ward, I think the situation is, it says for itself, we haven't had proper representation here since David Renuth was here. And I come back and going is that the part that comes back at the same time, when you come back and look at it, you get what you vote for, okay? The situation being is, we've had the situation here where we haven't had enough sense to come along and have the right people put in place to come along and look after Watson Ward. It's a single seat ward. It needs to be come along and have someone stand there to make sure that we act in relationship to getting things done here. It's the backwater of the whole Shire here. Nothing gets done here. You only have to look at the state of our roads. You have to come back and look at the situation in relationship to the way that the grass was growing here. It wasn't even cut until the best part in the summer. Everything gets cut around the other side, not a problem. It's absolutely nicely grown and so forth. We need to come along and make sure that we have somebody here who has the right and the sense to come back and think about what we can come along and do here. Communicate with the other councillors to come along and make sure that we do get something here. I don't have a problem to come along and make sure that I let you know it straight away that I'm not going to retire and come along and look for other situations to go elsewhere. I've been here for 30 years, or practically 30 years, and I intend to stay here. Cheers.
Thank you. All right, we've heard the opening statements. Affiliations, Ben, can I please test that?
I'm a Justice of the Peace. I wasn't allowed to put it on my paperwork, but anyway, I'm a Justice of the Peace. I'm with Oprah, Office of Public Advocate. I'm also a member, just to let you know, I'm also a member of the Tired Era Club. I have been for years. I've never ever come back and hidden that fact at all. And the situation being is, and I really mean this, we should be spending our money better than coming along and going to courts all the time. Spend the money here in Watson Ward, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. All right. Okay, so we've got the ball rolling. So thank you to the candidates for their initial presentations. Let's get some questions up. Can I please ask somebody from Baxter to come up first, and let's start at the northern end of the ward. Do we have anybody from Baxter who'd like to pose a question, please? Like to come up to here, please, and use the microphone. Like to come to the left-hand side.
I think I can talk without microphone.
Okay. Well, we're trying to get the video as well, so you may not come across on the video. I'm sorry, but that we. Let's go to the far side and face everybody. Your question is to the councillors or council candidates.
Okay, well, a lot of what I'm going to say is just reiterating what's been said initially. The overall consensus is we are the forgotten area, and I think Baxter is even worse off than the rest of you, right? Because we're on the border of the city of Frankston. We're a much smaller population than Somerville. Maybe we're the same as Tyre, I'm not 100% sure on that. But I have been secretary of our Progress Association for 14 years. I have written reams and reams of letters, right?
Could I encourage you perhaps to move to your question, please?
Well, the question is, how are you going to help us to change this issue? I mean, you've still got on council, you've still got to talk to each other. I want to know what money is allocated to whom?
Okay. So the question is to the candidates, what will you do for Watson Ward and with a particular focus for Baxter? Would that be fair as a starting point?
Yes, I've got a list of things.
I understand that, but one question at a time, please. So we're trying to get everybody covered. So
right.
Thank you. All right, so the question is, what will you as a councillor do for Watson Ward with a particular focus, please, on Baxter? Can I, Susie, you'd like to go first? Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. when we had our Western Port Neighbourhood Renewal Public Forum, I dared to ask the question of the Mayor of the Shire, the CEO of the Shire, Paul Mercurio, MP's office staff, and Zoe McKenzie's office staff, could we possibly look at a regional renewal or even a renewal for Watson Ward? Having been part of the community renewal in another forgotten corner of the Shire, this program would certainly benefit the residents in this area, especially where funding has been neglected. And when I sat in on the Shire meeting on the 21st of February, it was a 4-hour marathon, I discovered there was a $5 million surplus.
Okay, thank you, Susie. Who'd like to go next? Stephen?
I think what applies to Baxter applies to Pearsdale, and simply just a case of we want some more money spent on maintenance in our areas, not on capital works at swimming pools in Rosebud and other places. The millions that have gone down there, we've had nothing come up here. So it's a matter of trying to divert excess capital works into maintenance. The road deterioration problems, all has been caused by the zero lack of road maintenance. No drainage work has been done because we've had the drought for years. So it's just diverting capital into maintenance will improve all our villages here.
Thank you. All right, who'd like to go next?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lewis.
Okay, well the situation being is that we need to understand straight away we're a one council ward. So we need to come along and make sure that we have at least 4 of the other ones that come from the other side to come along and get anything done here. And that's the main problem we have here, and the situation also comes back at the same time to come back and have a full-term councillor to come back here. Because the situation being is, every time the councillor disappears or goes away on maternity leave or goes somewhere else or whatever the case may be, we get nothing done here. There's no one to fight for us here. It becomes along and gets handed over to somebody on the other side of the peninsula. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. Next one, Kate.
Thank you, yes, that was one of my points I made, you know, just going around this ward. Baxter stands out as looking a bit more tired than everyone else, and I had a member of a footy club there say, thank goodness the grounds aren't in Mornington Peninsula Shire or they'd be in terrible state. So people there feel it, and as a Western Port resident, I really, and as a councillor here, I really fought for funding to get spent here, and my constant cry was, you know, we're getting ripped off, Western Port needs more, and even though we've got a huge population growth here, the funding's just not coming through, and the lack of a strong representative is sorry, I didn't realise what you're doing, is the reason that we're not getting these things done. We're getting lots of plans, but then nothing happens. There's no money for them to actually do something. So
Okay.
you need a strong representative.
Okay, so strength of representation. Okay, thank you. Who next? Michael? And then we'll come to Rob.
Thanks for the question about Baxter. I would, first of all, it's important to listen to the community and listen to the concerns that you raised. The thing that I picked out of what you said just then was comparing how much money has been spent in Baxter to other places on the peninsula, and then from there you can work out you know, how to get more out of the council or why there's a disparity. That's how I would handle the problem.
Okay, thank you. And Rob, last but not least.
Surely there is an enormous demographic divide between Western Port and Port Phillip Bay, and it's a socio-economic divide as much as anything else. Obviously each ward has approximately the same amount of members and voters. That's not the issue. The issue is making sure that we get our fair share of the pie, and that would mean making sure that we're on the right committees, making sure that you not get involved in horse trading, but certainly get involved in making sure that there are rules about the relative merit of one project as to another, irrespective of where that is. So that's how I would be.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Everyone sounds like they're all pushing for recognition, for funding. I am going to challenge you as we go through the evening. I'm not hearing what you're going to do. I'm hearing a little bit of generalisation here. So what specific actions will you do? And I really would appreciate if we get that from you in response to the questions. We've had that question, let's move on, but please put that flavour into your responses going forward, as I don't think you've got a crowd here that's going to be particularly happy. Right, they want to know what you will do differently to what previous councillors have done. Thank you. Who'd like to, would someone like to pose a question around Somerville, please? Peter. Just introduce yourself, Peter, and most people will know you anyway. But
I'll get that. Evening, candidates and ladies and gentlemen. I'm here representing Somerville Football Netball Club, Somerville Cricket Club, Somerville Junior Football Club and Somerville Junior Netball Club. Basically, Somerville is a wonderful town. I think it's got character, it's got identity. It's the latest census, or 2001 census, tells us that 11,767 residents, and it's grown since then. And we've got 3,324 families. So it's a major. Sorry.
Yeah, 30 seconds. You've got to go. Please get your question.
I want to create a little bit of background first. Basically, at the Somerville Recreation Reserve, we've got 49 teams. It's one of the biggest sporting centres on the peninsula. It's a 1960s facility. It's dilapidated. It's falling down. The clubs, tenant clubs, have raised $200,000. We've invested our own money with little help from the council. Residents from Somerville and Tyre have been surveyed by OnMo.
Peter, I'm going to ask you to move to your question, please.
My question is, Somerville has been neglected for a long time, with 49 teams playing out of the facility, with major support, sponsor support, and it's a really important part of this town. And we are totally tired of spending our own money, fundraising, and also raising money and investing in that money and doing the council's job. So we really need someone to stand up and represent our part of the world up here in Somerville. So our junior and female demographic is going through the roof.
Your question, please, Peter.
We can't keep doing what we're doing. So, if elected, how will you advocate for the sports clubs of Somerville, and how will you also break the monopoly from some of the southern wards who are overly represented compared to us?
Thank you. Good question. So how will you advocate for the Somerville community? I'm going to go to Rob, who was our last responder last time, and then I'll move across the group. Rob.
Yes, sporting is a wonderful pastime, and as being an archer myself for 30 odd years, but not in this ward because we don't have anywhere and we're not allowed to kill cats anymore. The issue surely is, and you touched on it, that the issue is using the emphasis on our children. The sporting bodies do a good job, but if we can couch money under the auspices of developing and maintaining the well-being of our children, particularly the teenagers, where they've got nowhere else to go and where they end up in strife with the police, and so there are mechanisms, and I would do that I would encourage the council to consider the youth as a separate and a special case in order to generate income for the sporting clubs.
Okay, so focus on you. Thank you, Rob. Let me go to Michael. What would you do, please? And then I'll come. I want to get everybody getting a balanced place in the queue. Michael.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I've been up to the sporting club, talked to you during the week about the dilapidated facilities and the plans on the table. First of all, there's $250,000 that's allocated to extend the cricket nets and to create a master plan for the area. So I would put a lot of effort on making sure that's done properly as the first step.
Okay, so working with the club. Thank you.
Hasn't been received at this stage. We don't know where it is.
Money hasn't been received at this stage.
Promised but not received.
I can also say that with my campaign, the sporting club upgrades are the second highest priority.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Let me come to Kate, please.
Thank you. I also have visited the club and have seen it over the years. I've been to a few footy matches there quite a while ago when my son was a junior. And we talked about a master plan, and my issue with the master plan is these seem to cost $250,000, $500,000 to get consultants to do a master plan. There's no money to spend on the ground. My idea would be to go straight to getting funding for a new clubhouse. We did that at Crib Point, and we've had some other growing suburbs funds. This area, Hastings used to be called the main activity centre, but Somerville's population has now exceeded Hastings, so I think that's a good argument. We are a growing suburb, and that funding should be coming here, and a new clubhouse, and then worry about, if you go a master plan, it's going to take 3 or 4 years to get any funding spent on that ground.
Okay.
So that's the way I would go.
Thank you. Lewis, can I move to you for your... Do you want to respond to this one?
First of all, I don't think anybody knows my sporting achievements and so forth. I represented Australia back in 1973 in winter sports. I was a ice speed skater on a long track. I was also the team manager that went to the World. At the same time, to come back and talk about when I came back, we were going to go to the Olympics in Innsbruck. The situation being, of course, only one person was able to go to that, so I turned professional cyclist.
Can we get your
And
response,
the
please,
situation
Ben?
being is in relationship to your question. As being a sportsman, a former sportsman and so forth, I would be pushing to come along and make sure that we get the fair cut in relationship to what you've been asking for and in relationship to our youth. I see too many of our youth all the time at the police stations that come along because something is happening because they're on charges for something that they happen to be due to the fact that they haven't had anything to do. So therefore, I come back and I'll put it back to the community as well to come along and start pushing for it at the same time.
Thank you. Susie next, and then we'll come to Stefan last, if I may.
Hi Peter. 29 years ago, I used to run boundary seniors football. I was one of those rare female boundary umpires, and I can attest to the state of many of the club rooms and the change rooms, and they most likely haven't changed all that much in 30 years. And we didn't actually have separate changing rooms for the female umpires, so it was a very interesting situation. I'm finding that there's quite a lot of infrastructure, and especially Baxter residents have been talking to me. So we have older buildings that are heavily utilised that still have asbestos in them, like the Baxter CFA building. This is clearly unacceptable, but you obviously are able to fundraise a substantial amount of money. Have you thought about asking for matching funding and then applying for some other funding or grants? No, but this is what happened. What's the Lifesaving Club ended up with a fabulous new facility because they showed that they had the funding base.
Can I respond?
No, just we'll get all the responses from the candidates first, and then yes, Peter, you may. Stefan, to close, please.
Well, I'll just be quite simple about this idea that some councillor in front of you sitting on this table is going to promise you a few $1 million is ridiculous and stupid. The only thing we can do in this area is to advocate for our area, but we have the opportunity to do things that cost nothing. And one of those things would be open the old fire trail from Baxter right through Pearsdale to Tyre Beach through the Somerville area, and you could have at least some open recreation area that costs the Shire nothing. If you expect anybody to forecast give you money, it's a waste of time. I'm not going to stand up and say I'm going to give you $1 million for your football club.
Well, I think you might have misinterpreted what I said. I said I'm representing 49 teams, the second biggest sporting precinct on the peninsula, and I think to say that is pretty poor. Okay?
Thank you.
Really not good enough.
Okay.
I'd also,
Back to the question that Susie put to you.
the question was again?
Matching funding.
It's pretty hard when you're fighting City Hall because it's pretty well documented. Everyone's said here tonight that Western Port is the forgotten part of the Mornington Peninsula Shire Council. It's easy to say that based on emotion. I've been president of the cricket club for 10 years. I'm a life member there. I've done a lot of work along with other people who are here tonight and a lot of the friends that I'm pretty closely connected to. We sat down with the infrastructure staff from the Mornington Peninsula Shire Council. This has been going on over 3 years now. And their response was, and they're a little bit limited because of the funds, I understand that, inflation's gone up by 8%, revenue's gone up by 4%. You're wasting your time. I say, reevaluate your priorities, because if you spend $1, we'll save you 10 through stopping social disenfranchisement with kids running off the rails, as some of you have spoken about before. We can actually stop that from happening by engaging families and kids through sport.
Thank you, Peter. That's great. Good question, and thank you for your responses. Can I get somebody, thank you, Peter. Can I get somebody from the tie-up community, perhaps, to present a question, please?
Hi, I'm Bruce Atkinson. In October last year, a VCAT decision about the airfield now means...
Please.
Excuse me.
Respect.
Now means that it's an airport, and there is no limit on the total number of takeoffs of helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft that occur at any time of the day or the night. If elected councillor, what would you do to ensure that residents of Watson Ward, particularly those living in Tyre and South and Eastern Somerville, are protected from excessive aircraft noise associated with the airfield? Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Who'd like to go first on this one? Susie, you'd like to go? Go for it.
Now, I'm only a flying member, and I only renewed my membership.
Thanks for bringing up this subject tonight for us. I ran in the last council election 2 years ago, and the tension in the community over that matter was, it was such a huge issue across the whole peninsula. And I'm very relieved to see that it's been sorted out in VCAT, and it's not so much of an issue this election. And I think it's a very important facility for the whole peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on. Thank you for a question. Lady in the striped shirt, please come and...
Because this is a good segue.
Louise. Give your name, Louise.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Louise Page. Thank you all for standing. It's really good to see people standing up for this community. Just following on from what's just been said, and I'll read fast because I want you to get it all. In 2021 into 2022, Councillor Paul Mercurio, Councillor Anthony Marsh and Mayor Despy O'Connor and the Shire CEO John Baker were in negotiations with PAC, the Aero Club, with Jack Vivers, who was the president at the time, about the permits and operations at Tybe Airfield. The negotiations failed quite spectacularly and resulted in PAC taking the Shire to VCAT. Let's remember, PAC has taken the Shire to VCAT. Firstly, one has to ask why the community wasn't informed of the negotiations at the time, and secondly, why was Marsh involved at all? He wasn't our ward councillor.
So, we'll get that to history. Can we please move to your question, Louise?
These
people aren't going to be able to affect what happened in the past. Can you please move forward and ask your question as of now?
Yep. So, I have a Freedom of Information document in my hand here, which showed that the process, they knew they were blocking the community out, and they didn't do anything about it. So the CEO said to the councillors, a reputational risk to council from the inevitable and very public accusations that we have carved up a preferential deal behind closed doors with the airfield. Blah, blah, blah about it. I've got them here if you want to read them later. So, as a result of these failed negotiations, we had a VCAT hearing that only went to the permits. It did not include any community concerns. They have only clarified the permits.
Can you please go to your question, Louise? This is dragging on.
Yep. So, do you think that that was an appropriate way to handle the Tybe Airfield matters? And how will you seek to address the failure to get a master plan, an airfield master plan for the community? And it's been partly answered, I realise that.
So your question again, I'm sorry, I was not focused. Can you go again, please?
I don't see what council can do.
Okay, thank you.
Other than go back to VCAT.
Okay. Rob, can I come to you, please?
Yep. Yes, it's all very so. As I said before, the trouble is that the community itself has not been involved, and the community's absolute wishes, which would be carried out by a postal vote, has not been any kind of influence on the transactions, nor has it been put to VCAT. In terms of a master plan, the master plan needs to be a total tyre issue. But what concerns me, being in planning for so many years, is the concept of project creep. And it's all very well for somebody to stay up and say, look, you know, we won't have any more aeroplanes land. That's like, trust me, I'm a politician. It's not going to happen. Unless there are fixed rules on the numbers of flights, the weights of the aeroplanes or whatever else, I'm sorry, the promises of someone who flies aeroplanes is not worth the paper it's written on.
Thank you. Lewis, your final comment on this, please.
Thank you very much. It sounds like you people who are advocating for the fact that you want to go back to VCAT and so forth, you know the money's not going to be spent down here. It's time to dip in your own pockets, guys. If you want to fight this, go to the federal. That's where it's going to have to be fought, you know. That's not VCAT. It's not going to, you're going to the wrong place. Okay. Now the situation in relationship to the number of flights, there are already a number of flights being put in place. There are already weight limits put in place. Then the same situation in relationship to warbirds flying and that, the situation comes back to is there's so many flights that are allowed to be done, takeoffs and landings. They adhere to that. The part that comes back to is everybody likes to come back and have a look at the situation in relationship to the air shows and so forth that come up once every 2 years. It's fantastic. We're the only place in the world where we have people who are willing enough to come along and spend their own money and come along and keep warbirds, historic warbirds, in the air. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. Whether they answer the question or not, David, is moot. Louise, can I give you your final comment just to hear what you respond to what you've heard?
Yeah, I think what's more disturbing to me was the process and the fact that they actually discussed that the community was being blocked out and they still continued on that route. That was one of the main points.
Thank you.
We're still being sued now.
Thank you. Thanks. Let's close that one down. So we've had 2 questions on Tyre Airfield. Sir, would you introduce yourself, please? And which?
My name's Warren Young, and I'm a professional cyclist, and I'm representing Tyre, Somerville, and Baxter. Now, my question is, and I'm involved in a footy club, cricket club, tennis club, all my kids go through. My problem here is master plans are no good, but unless we have a master plan, we don't know where we're going to be. Where are we going to be in 2 years' time? It's all right to say you're going to spend it on that. When's it going to happen? Where are we going to be in 5 years' time? Where are we going to be in 10 years' time? We need to know a plan, what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, so we know what's going on.
So your question of the candidates is, please?
Why can't we have a master plan?
For what now? For, can you be clear?
For 2 years' time. Well, I'm talking footy, cricket, everything that's going to happen. Well, let's take sport. Let's talk about sport. We need a sport master plan that's going to happen in this.
Okay. So would you, as a candidate, as a councillor, push for a sport master plan for Watson Ward, Somerville? How wide range?
Everything in it, bike riding.
Okay, so would you as a councillor, can I paraphrase your question, would you as a councillor push for a sporting master plan for the Watson Ward to incorporate Baxter, Somerville and Tyre?
For 2, 5 and 10 years.
Okay, so there's the question. Would you advocate for it? And if not, why not? If yes, how would you do it? Please go first, Stefan.
I'm happy to go. There's a gentleman here on planning. If you try to draw up a plan to cover every sport in Watson's Ward, impossible. It'll never happen. So if you want to say, let's do a master plan for getting the bicycle path through from Baxter to Somerville all through, we've got the plan, but it's not happened. So we can have the plans to have more planners. The Shire has, my last bloody count was, over 100 people in the planning department. The more planners we have, the actual less productivity we have. So I think if you want to plan for something, stick for something, say the bicycle path, and I 100% support a specific plan. But in general, too hard.
Okay. May I move to Lewis, please?
Yeah, well, I agree. We've already got, you're a professional cyclist, you know just as well as I do. Professional cyclists don't ride on bike paths for starter. they come along right on the roads.
If
Now,
if you go through the Somerville roundabout, you wouldn't be going on the road.
But the situation, come back and looking at the situation there, we need to come back and spend the money on the paths and so forth that you want to come along and have things done. Not on more planners to come back and do things and come along more bureaucrats. And the situation being is, we need to stop this thing of fighting the other systems to come back and place it on lawyers and all that sort of stuff, to come back and put things back into Watson Ward itself, not into the lawyers' pockets. And to come back and go, it's the only way we can come along and do things for Watson Ward. You want things done, the footy field wants things done, we want things done for our youth, that's where the money's got to be.
Yeah, but we need to know when it's going to happen. You need a time. You just can't say.
We're only going to be one. There's only one of us here, right? That's going to be on the council. That's only one vote.
Yep.
You need to have the number 4 to come along and have things done.
Okay.
That's what you need.
So there's the broader question, which is maybe once you're in council, and we are only one council ward, how will you marshal resources? But we'll come back to that one. Let's get some other responses, please. Susie, do you have a response on this one?
I think it's a great idea, and I think going back to the community and the sporting clubs and finding out where the greatest interest in which particular sports, and then it's always going to be community driven, not bureaucrat driven, telling the community what they want. And just recently, they've redone the Hastings Foreshore precinct again. They had 400 submitters, but they've actually developed a plan now and they're releasing it. And my question to the infrastructure officer at the council meeting on the 21st of February was, when is this actually going to be rolled out? And can part of that $5 million budget surplus be used in this corner of the Shire, which, as Paul Mercurio has pointed out in his inaugural speech, is the forgotten corner of the Shire, the forgotten region.
Thank you. Rob?
Yes. There's only a finite amount of money, and unless we're prepared to have our rates double so that we can have world-class sporting facilities in every town, I think the only solution really is to assess and have centres of excellence around the Shire, so that, let's say, we have 1,000 cyclists, but we can only really afford one velodrome. So you'd sit down and you'd work out where's the best spot to put a velodrome, where's the best spot to put an archery field, where's the best spot and when to put a myriad other sporting things. So you can't have everything everywhere. But we can have centres of excellence where people can go and enjoy their sport. We've waited for 10 years for the Frankston Council to even start looking at a development thing for Baxter Park, and we're still not there. So I understand, yes, you can plan for it, but the way to do it has to be based around how much money have I got to spend, because I agree with Stefan, there's no magic money tree out the back, and we have to be responsible as councillors. I don't want to pay any more rates, and neither do you. So that's the way, or one way to do it.
Thank you. Come to Michael, and then we'll come to Kate.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the master plan. I'm not sure about the overall one you were talking about, but especially for the sporting club, the way that's developed over the last 30 years is little chunks of money building little pieces along the way, without any overall planning. So an overall master plan is vitally important for that facility, so that you know where you're heading and you can plan it properly. The other thing you pointed out was that you just don't know what's happening. So reporting back to the community is vitally important, and letting people know you know what's happening and when it will happen.
Thank you, Michael. And let me come lastly to Kate on this subject.
Thank you. Master plans. I'm so sick of master plans. It's now the go-to thing. Let's do a master plan. The Hastings one they just passed was the 4th master plan in less than 10 years, and it's just a complete waste of money. There's another $500,000 down the drain for a perfectly good plan we had. Things change so fast. If it's the master plan's too old, then they want to renew it. If it's 2 years old, no, things have changed, we've got to look at it again. It's a complete waste of money. What we did a couple of years ago, they did a sporting, Peninsula-wide sporting precinct, an activity, participation on all sorts of sports, including bike riding, looking at bike paths and connectivity, and they did that plan. So you just got to find the money to put into the parts of the plan you want. But if you're going to go down a master plan, you're going to be waiting 3 years, and they're going to do it again, and you're never going to get anything done.
Thank you, Kate. Closing comment?
Yeah, my response is when we go and play other grounds, because I'm from Somerville, our facilities compared to Franklin's are an absolute disgrace, and we're embarrassed about it because they've got everything. So why can't we have it?
Thank you. All right. Please, the next person to come up. Who else? Does anybody else have a question to put? If you'd like to come here, whilst you're coming across, let me put a question that picks up on a question that's been raised already, and it's one around what would you do to raise the standards of the councillors' behaviour, and we've heard earlier some comments regarding the crop of councillors and executive and their performance, which has been reflected in a survey. What would you do to raise standards amongst councillors and the council? That's the question that's been put. Susie, you want to start, please?
Okay, I always found pleasant communication skills, regular communication with the community, but I noticed that there was a distinct divide between the community and the council. And I remember when I first got onto council, I was told that there are people outside the tent, and we are inside the tent. And of course I was furious at this. And straight away I went out and started to teach residents about how to better lobby us as councillors, how to get the most out of their council representatives. And I remember the CEO of the show, Michael Kennedy, attended with some interest to some of these ward meetings that I held. I think we are creatures of statute. So once we're elected, my loyalty was always to my constituents, and I was a creature of statute, and that is unwavering. And I think Section 223 meetings should be brought back. I always thought they were fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, as a former councillor as well, do you have a point to make, please?
Thank you. Well, I was so ignorant when I first stood for council in 2012. I didn't even realise council's got an allowance. I thought they might get a little bit of petrol money for mileage, but I didn't even know that. And when you get in and see the money that councillors have for allowances for meals, entertainment, study and trips, I think it's just really over the top. Some courses are beneficial, like day courses with Victorian,
Local government?
Yeah, local government, yeah, sorry, we just explained it again. Some of those are useful, but some of these things, they're just, nose in the trough. It really makes me angry. It doesn't pass the pub test at local, state or federal level, some of these junkets, and it's really disappointing. When I see it, it's just so disappointing. What could I do? I know that I don't do that sort of stuff, so that's, how can you control someone else who is acting within the councillor code of conduct? That's what can you actually do.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, I'd be leading by example. I think that's the only way to answer that question. I'm happy to hold people to account and lead with integrity. And as Kate said, very hard to persuade other people or to lead with integrity.
Thank you. Lewis?
Thank you very much. And first of all, I come back and say, it's very important that we come back and have the councillor do the right thing. I would make a motion to come back and put an administrator in place to come back and take care of the whole thing in the first place to come along and do it. We don't need to have these junkets and so forth for councillors. It's about time that we start thinking about it, our community themselves, and standing up and saying something. When you go to the council meetings and so forth, when you sit down the back and do the sitting there and you're trying to make a question beforehand to your councillors, right? You should have the right to speak to your councillors. You shouldn't be sat there and said nothing, right? If you don't agree with something that's said, you should be able to voice yourself that you're not able to be said. And that's the whole part that I stand for. So let's see what we can come up with. Okay?
Thank you, Stefan. Lewis, Stefan?
I think the number one thing to me is that the council becomes far more open. I'd like to see published every time a councillor votes what he votes in favour, for or against. It's very hard to even find out which councillor voted for what and who made the decisions. Too much is hidden. So just transparency and opency on every single decision.
Thank you. And Rob, to close.
There's two issues here. The first one is you've got 3 wolves and a sheep deciding what they're going to have for lunch. So the issue is you can't ask councillors to give up their rorts. The other thing, I'm sorry, it's your job. It's your job to pick the right person. If you don't vet these people who are standing up, check their credibility, check whether or not they have any social conscience, check whether or not they've been involved legitimately within their communities, it's your job. It's your job to make sure whoever ends up as Watson Ward councillor is the right person and has the right morals to look after you, not just come up with plans. They have to be the right people.
Thank you, Rob. All right, so.
I'm from Burruda, so I'm not in Watson Ward, but
And your name?
the current council and the current Shire, the power is with John Baker, the people who work for the Shire, and the group of 5 from the other side of the bay. How is you, as an individual councillor, going to go about breaking that power struggle and get money and expertise over this one?
Susie answered number 1 for a number of times. Let me move to Michael, please. I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets a chance to respond, and Michael hasn't responded at the beginning.
My plan to get money over this side, or attention given to this side, is to work with the other councillors and persuade them that this is the forgotten part of the peninsula and it needs some attention. Thank you.
Okay, you work with your colleagues. Okay, great, thank you. Let's Kate.
Thank you. Well, the council plan, I'm not sure if the council plan, part of the council plan was always to spread things evenly around the Shire. That was part of the council plan, so I always kept referring back to that when they were arguing against things that I wanted on this side. And that's what you've got to fight for. You've just got to make those points. This is a growth area. There's you've got a major activity centre in Hastings. It's supposed to be the major activity centre over here. And you've got a population here that's now bigger than Hastings. So that's what you argue for. But, and you work with other councillors, and I think that power balance is shifting.
Okay, Rob.
And that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Yes, a councillor gets 35,000 a year, so I read somewhere. The CEO gets nearly $500,000. I think that answers a few questions. The problem is that it's the tail wagging the dog. The councillors don't have enough power to actually enforce what the people like you who vote, and like me, I vote to do what the council does, what we want them to do. And until we resolve that, either by legislation or, as Lewis said, put in an administrator. If we can prove corruption, and there has been serious allegations with a number of factional deals being cut, these people should be run out of town. And so there needs to be some teeth put into council, and that is only going to be done by legitimate and honourable councillors.
Thank you. Susie.
I said before that elected representatives are creatures of statute. And this is the thing with law. It's law. They have bylaws, they have amendments, but at the end of the day, as a creature of statute, it's what the law prescribes. And basically, I went to constitutional recognition of local government years ago. Everyone thinks that council is actually a recognised third tier of government. It's still a department of the state government, all in all. Our Commonwealth Constitution includes financial support for municipal councils, and it's the elected veneer of councillors and the community. This is the community that gives council laws the power. So if we want to change the residual legislative authority that state government has, it's going to be up to the community and councillors ensuring that they are correctly lobbied, but also it's all about negotiation. So rather than turning people aside or creating factions, it's finding a way to reach out and communicate and connect with people. And my strong suit when I was on council was being able to work with anybody, regardless of their political spectrum.
Thank you, Susie. Stefan?
Well, look, to answer your question, to me it's just very simple and crude or rude as it is, it's getting the numbers. So to get the numbers, to get people to vote in favour over here, you have to know what's going over at Sorrento and Rosebud and Mount Martha, and you have to do a deal with that you'll vote X over there in favour of their project so they vote for you. It's all about negotiation with the other councils. It's the only way you're going to get anything over here.
Thank you. And Lewis, to close. Thank you very much.
Well, we've got exactly the same thing happening again. We come back and going is negotiation with the other councils. We can't do anything. We're only one vote and so forth to come back and do it. So it's the negotiation part that comes back into play. Now the other part comes into play in relationship to what money can be spent here and there in relationship to the bureaucrats. So the situation being is it's under the legislation of the state government. That's everything there. So we can't do much in relationship to that unless, of course, you come back and lobby to have the state government to change the legislation. That's basically where it comes down to. Thank you.
Thank you. Your closing quote, please.
Yeah, I just wondered if you reviewed John Baker's contract.
There you go. There's an opportunity. Thank you. Thank you. So I've got a gentleman who's already been before the group back here, ready to ask another question. I would like to give... No, he's not. Oh, he's not. Okay, all right.
How many years have you still got?
So do we have other questions, please? If someone hasn't answered a question, I'll go first, and then if we have time, we will bring people who've already asked questions. Captain Cox.
Changing the subject, performing arts centre. We've had consultants, the Shire's had consultants look at that, but they were only allowed to look at Shire-owned premises, which is absolutely ridiculous in my view. The cheapest part of the performing arts centre will be buying land. But where the consultants advocated was for Hastings, I think in the Shire office. It's reading the small print. That's the big thing we've got to do.
Your question, Dick, please.
Question, where would you put the Performing Arts Centre?
Thank you. Where would you put the Performing Arts Centre? So, Lewis, we've had you last most of the time. Would you like to come first, please?
Thank you very much. Well, seeing that chamber, the old Hastings office and so forth is only open half a day, I think the situation might be a good start.
You don't want an underground car park there.
Thank you.
No.
So,
Well, there's enough room around it for a sale. I think we can keep it nice and short anyway.
Okay, thank you. Can I come to Stefan, please?
Well, Dick, yes, no, you're quite well. The first question is, why do we need a performing arts centre, and why should it be in Hastings or Somerville or Rosebud or Sorrento? What's the priority? What's the demand? And I've got no idea. I mean, it's a nice vision. Last I heard was a sound shell on the foreshore, which I thought was going to happen, but it sort of disappeared. So I'm not going to leap in and say I'm going to put a performing arts centre in the middle of Tyab or something. I think you need a lot more detail before you just volunteer, here's a few $1 million to solve a problem.
Okay, thank you. Susie?
I believe
believe this was something that Paul Mercurio was working quite hard on. And I do believe that he's been lobbying the state government for funding, but as to where it should go, like we see, Somerville, the population is growing, much younger population. I would probably suggest close to Somerville.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I have heard the proposal about having it at Hastings in the council chambers. I think it's early days, and that you know, there's a lot more information needed to make a sound decision on where it should go. At the moment, it's good that it's gonna. They're talking about having it on the west side of the peninsula. So
East side.
sorry, the east, western Portland. But yeah, there needs to be a whole lot more discussion on where the location.
Rob?
Yep. Okay. As a second-class cellist, I'm all in favour of raising the bar. You know, we hear a lot of talk, and I'm not disrespectful to people who play football, but there are other aspects to life. I ran a writing class out of the community centre for some years, and we tried to get the schools involved in a writing competition. I got one school that signed up for a writing competition, which was going to have real money to the students. We need to raise the bar in terms of the intellectual pursuits of our children. This is a tradie organised area. We need to develop an area where we can have more tertiary qualified men, and we can develop for their children plans and schemes where they can develop, and you're probably going to hate me for this, who are desirous of more intellectual pursuits. And there is nothing wrong with that. It would be really good to have another Yo-Yo Ma come out of Somerville. Who knows Yo-Yo Ma, by the way? Thank you, yes. I rest my case.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
Kate?
Thank you. Yeah, they've been trying to close the old Shire offices at Hastings for a long time, and I can't see them doing anything else but knocking down that building, because they've got a few possums living in the roof, I think. When they're talking about this art centre, they were talking about tens and tens of millions of dollars to put into it to get it built. And then they were talking about that it was going to run at a loss. So the Shire's already got a golf club that runs at a loss, 2 pools that run at loss. So why are we putting money into something like this? I can't see it being built in Hastings myself. I think it'll go over the other side near the art gallery. If it goes anywhere, it'll go over there. That's what the consultant suggested, where the population was, and that's probably where they'll put it if they get the funding. But I think we do need something on this side, and that so I'm not sure what they can do with the Hastings site. It's quite a small site, a footprint, so I'm not sure how big a centre they could make there.
All right, Dick, closing comments? Anything else to say?
Basically what it is you need to look at the small print on what the Shire officers have done by restricting it just to Shire-owned property. It's ridiculous, isn't it? They need to look at all of them. And those are the sort of questions that councillors should be making sure the officers do.
Thank you, Dick. All right. Yes, David, you want to come forward, and then we'll the lady from Baxter, I know has a question. We'll see how we go from there. David.
Just a quick one. The Somerville roundabout, and what would the Shire put into it? Obviously, the Eramosa Road is the road that belongs to the Shire, and Frankston Flinders is the state one. So obviously, we don't want to have a tennis match going backwards and forwards between the state and the federal or whoever. What would you guys do if you're elected?
Thank you. So let me start with Michael, please. I think you mentioned that in your opening address.
Yeah, you mentioned, David, there's 3 different authorities controlling that intersection, so it is a very complex matter. I'd advocate to get them all together and to concentrate on a plan to improve the traffic flow through that intersection. Yeah, I think that's
Okay, thank you. Susie?
As somebody who drives a van through that intersection numerous times a day, it's quite a gauntlet to run. And then you've got the railway line, and then you've got a pedestrian crossing, and at school times you have the school crossing attendants, crossing supervisors there. I think because it has these overlapping jurisdictions, a bit like Baxter itself, it's where we need to get all of those parties together and look at how the heck can we reduce maybe the congestion, but also improve traffic flow. And maybe it could be the need for more signalling. It could be sometimes you've got two streams of traffic coming into the roundabout, and sometimes people don't know who's in first. And yeah, it's a very tricky situation.
Thank you. Stefan?
The old roundabout, yeah. There's only one solution to that roundabout, and that's the electrification of the rail from Melbourne to, call it Hastings or Stony Point, and put the railway underground in Somerville. The rest of nothing is feasible and nothing will ever happen, so we should advocate and push to get electrification of the rail to at least Hastings, if not Stony Point.
Thank you. Lewis?
Thank you. Seeing that the state government's come along and made the peninsula part of the metropolitan area, it's about time that we start pushing for the situation of having the electrification all the way through to Crib Point. And seeing that we had the Navy training down there, the electrification would absolutely be a windset for the whole part of this Western Port area. And now that would also fix up the roundabout area, but it's my understanding too that somewhere along the line, within a few months or whatever the case will be, there could be a announcement about the roundabout anyway.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
Yeah, I know everybody's been bagging planners, but I have a plan. There's two issues here. The first thing to reduce the congestion is that if you elect me, I will stop the B-doubles from coming through Tyre and coming through Somerville. I will have the load limits changed on the roads, which the council can do. We will stop them. Originally they went up the back road to Dandenong, and then as soon as the Peninsula Link was done, it's like water flowing down a river. They take the path of least resistance. You can't blame them, but it's our land, it's our town, and let me stop it. As far as the roundabout can be fixed. Personally, the first thing you do is bulldoze the roundabout. I probably think I can do it in the first 18 months of council. About 10 months of planning and about 6 weeks to 2 months of actual construction. It's not difficult. You just got to have the will, and you've got to have the desire, and you've got to have to be, well, dare I say, bloody-minded enough not to take no for an answer. It can be fixed. Thank you.
Right, thanks. And Kate, opposed.
Please explain, Kate.
Well, yeah, like I said, several different authorities. It's a really tricky one, which is why it's been going on for so long and there doesn't seem to be a solution. For me, everyone mentions the old building on the corner as a visual problem, and coming down Grant Road and looking to the right, that's the most dangerous. I hate coming out of that road. So there must be, I'm not a planner, but surely they've looked at sort of a light system of some, for the traffic coming Grant Road especially, they've got that visual problem. I don't know how there are not accidents there constantly. So there must be some sort of red light, that like they have in those, the on-ramps on the freeway, something like that, because that's so dangerous. And I think fixing up the shopping area in that section might help flow a bit too, because it's very stop-start there too.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Closing comment, David?
Just the pedestrian crossings are a nightmare there as well. They're too short, the distance between the roundabout and the road. The B doubles roll through there and then the kids have to cross.
effects. You got sound effects as well. There you go. All right. Good set of accountants are boring. Baxter, please come forward. I'm not seeing anybody else standing up or moving to the front, so please come and put your second question, please.
When Councillor Morris was on council, I think it was about every 3 months, she would meet with us all from Tyre, Baxter and Somerville, and we could all go there and air our grievances and whatever. She'd take it to council. Are you all prepared to do something like that? Because I think we need that, and we've got more, communication between each other.
Thank you. So are you prepared as a councillor to have community forums, which we haven't had since Julie finished,
Yes.
I believe? Thank you. And COVID was a significant issue behind that, I appreciate, but nothing even took off after that. Thank you for your question. So what would you as a councillor, how would you plan to engage with the community, and in particular would you hold, what do they call, council forums? What was the...
Yeah, they community meetings.
Community meetings, thank you. All right. Cool, yes, please go, Kate.
I actually, when I was the councillor at Hastings, did that quarterly. And used to alternate between Hastings and Beacon Hall and advertised on Facebook, notice boards, word of mouth, newspapers, just for that reason. And the format I had was I'd spend the first 10 to 15 minutes telling people what was going on in the ward, what problems there were, and then it was just open questions, so they could fire any question at me they liked. And it was good. Some of them were very well attended, some of them, a wet rainy night in the middle of winter, were not. And I just ran them on my own. I think once I had John Baker came to one when he first started, and a couple of...
Thank you. All right. Rob.
All right. There's no way I will ever hold quarterly council briefings with the general population.